Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lena Castillo, and today I want to tell you guys a little bit more about my culture. I was born here in the United States. I was actually born in Miami, Florida. My parents are Hispanic, so I am Hispanic, Cuban, and Nicaraguan. My mom is Nicaraguan, and my dad was born in Cuba. They came to the United States like 1994 around there. So I do have that Hispanic but like mix of Cuban and Nicaraguan. I identify as Hispanic, obviously a white Hispanic. I was born and raised here in Miami. In my household, we did not speak anything but Spanish because unfortunately my parents really don't know English except for my sister. So I learned English in school, and then my mom put me into a program that like half the day I would go ahead and learn Spanish, and then half the day I would go ahead and learn English. So that's kind of how I learned my English, but originally Spanish is my first language. I go more towards the Cuban heritage, I guess you can say, because my mom worked at a Cuban restaurant. So the majority of the stuff that she knows how to cook and the way that she speaks is mostly Cuban. So I've taken a big toll on that. I did work at Leon Medical Centers. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, but the majority of the people there are Cuban. So I got a lot of their, customs and a lot of their, not religious things, but a lot of the things that they would do. I guess you can say the little slings that they have. So I did use a lot of that. Because of Leon, I was there for about 7 years since I was 19, and I recently just moved to Baptist Hospital. So, like, I'm still with the whole Hispanic lingo, I guess you can say. Um, Religious does play a big part in my life. I identify as Catholic. My beliefs for my community and spiritually are on that. It's kind of been passed down through like generations, and in Nicaragua, there's a lot of like they call them virgencitas, like virgins. So my mom believes a lot in like La Virgencita de Guadalupe, which I know that it's Mexican, but it's something that my family really believes in. So I kind of been on that, I guess you can say. Like that's kind of what I grew up with. um, Let me see what else. So for practices, I don't go to church very often. I would say I don't remember the last time I went to church. Maybe it was like 3 years ago. My mom was sick, but we do say our prayers, here and there. My grandmother thankfully is still alive, so I follow a lot of her like religious ways. She likes to read the Bible every morning. She likes to go ahead and she goes to church on Sundays, and little things like that. She does prenderle una velita a la Virgencita whenever something's going on or whenever she feels like she needs help. So that's something that I think that I will still continue to do and that I will obviously continue and pass on to my kids, when I have any or when they're older. That's something that I want to continue in the family. I don't pray very often, but that's something that goes with that. Let me see what else. Views on society and health practices. I guess you can say I am the traditional, we do the traditional remedies in modern medicine. So basically for Cubans, if you guys are Cuban, you guys would know that we self-medicate ourselves, and for everything we use Vaporu, and we basically do a lot of home remedies. We like to go ahead and, let's say if you're sick, you use ginger, and you use like tea or cocimiento of like ginger and like we'd use lemon and like little lemon shots or gargle water with salt. Like we basically try to like medicate and do as much natural things as possible rather than like use medication or go to the hospital and stuff. um Also, Cuban men are very, like my father, they're very not machista, but they barely want to go to the doctor, they barely want to go to the hospital. So, they try to self-medicate themselves, or like old medication that we have. Like if you get prescribed an ibuprofen, they're gonna go ahead and take that rather than like go to the doctor and get prescribed something for you. So that is definitely something that, is a Hispanic culture, because even me now working in the emergency room, I do see a lot. Like once I triage someone and I ask them, like, what are they coming in for, if they took something at home, or if they've been taking anything, they tell me, yes, I went to a Cuban pharmacy and they prescribed me antibiotics, a Z-Pack for 5 days. I'm like, but why? Like, what do you have? Like, if it's a virus, and you don't need to take antibiotics. So that's something that I do see a lot, especially in the whole Cuban, heritage and Cuban society. But yeah, that's something that I see a lot. I barely do see a lot of people in my like culture follow up with doctors. So unless obviously they're sick, but the whole following up with doctors and going here and getting this checkup, like that's not very often. So usually when I see people in my emergency room, I see them like that they have not followed up with certain things, or they haven't checked up on that certain subject, or they've just been avoiding it or treating it themselves. So health for them is not very like, not I wouldn't say common, but their regimen of checking up on something isn't very like accurate. um at work, I speak both languages. I speak English and I speak Spanish. A lot of people actually think that I'm gringa, so that I only speak English because I'm blonde. So they're like, oh, do you speak Spanish? Or hey, do you know Spanish? I'm like, of course, like Spanish is my first language, I'm Cuban. And then when I start talking in Spanish, they can hear my accent, so I sound more, I guess, Cuban, you can say, instead of Nicaraguan. So and then an advantage as well is a lot of doctors and a lot of like of my other colleagues, they're like, hey, can you go ahead and translate for me, because I don't know Spanish, or hey, can you help me here with this medication, or things like that. So I honestly do think that speaking English and Spanish is a big advantage, especially working in Miami. It is very multicultural, so you don't know what you're gonna get, especially in an emergency room. Working there, you don't know what we're getting, you don't know what you need to explain. A lot of doctors don't speak Spanish, sorry, so you could you kind of have to translate. So that's honestly a big advantage for me. But yeah, I believe that it is very important to learn both, and I will teach my kids both languages. um, I also, another big advantage of speaking Spanish, in high school I spoke well, I was taught Italian. So Italian and Spanish are like very similar, and they're very close together. So it was fairly easy to get the hang of it. However, I don't really have much people to practice with, so I don't know. You know, I know how to like understand it. I just don't know how to make a sentence of Italian, but it is very close to Spanish, and I also do think that's a very like close advantage. Um, let me see what else. I do believe that, it is important to continue your culture. I think it makes you who you are and your identity. It's, very important, especially like for our elders, like our elders, like my grandmother and my father and my mom that are getting older. I do think that keeping the root of your culture, um, will take you a long way, and it makes you who you are, and it makes your family. But yeah, I'm very proud to be Cuban and Nicaraguan. I do believe that they're both two very different cultures, but it makes me who I am today, and that is something that I will continue to live up to and show my kids in the future. And yeah, being an American Hispanic, for me, has made me who I am. And I hope to hear from all of you guys, and I hope that you guys understand, every single culture, and that we're all unique in a certain way. So thank you guys.